Thank you for joining us for a Digital World Town Hall Weekly Council meeting. Today is April 14th, 2026. We are joined here by a live audience from around the world, from in Australia, New Zealand, even though they just went through a ton of storms, Canada, America, as well as some representatives from Europe. We're grateful for all those that are here and for those that care about the details. I know that some folks struggle to even understand it, but I hope that as things continue to happen around the world, it becomes more and more evident. We'll try and point that out here as we get started. To review, we actually have an agenda that we will focus on the things that have transpired in the last week. We'll provide an update on any of the development environments, any of the event topics, and then give forecasts for an event that is actually targeted for the 20th through the 24th. And we'll go through the details of what that is and the realities there. And then we'll have just general Q&A, anything that anybody wants to talk about, whether it's technology, whether it's topics, legislation in the digital world, any topics that people want to bring up or focus on, you're welcome to it. This is not a support environment, but if you do need support, there are support moderators on, and we're grateful for those moderators that are with us. We're also grateful for some of our new visitors, and we'd like to invite one of those named Bill to give a word of prayer. Now, this is not about politics or religion or any of that type of stuff, but we do recognize that there's a spiritual layer and a physical layer, which we all see and feel, but we're actually all connecting on this new digital layer, which a lot of folks would like to just ignore that it's real or it's there, but it's very important. And when we identify this digital layer and then the digital world and then the ecosystems around it and the difference between a physical human or a digital environment or digital data, we can actually start delineating and creating not just rules or regulations or legislations or laws, but guidelines for humanity and guidelines for intelligence, especially as artificial intelligence starts to become more and more prominent. So, Bill, would you kick us off if you're good to go still? Bill, you with us, bud? Can you give us a word of prayer?
You hear me?
We got you now, loud and clear.
Weird. Wonder what's going on there.
Oh, you go.
All right.
There you go. You disappeared now, though. You were there a second ago.
What's going on with my phone?
Now we hear
I
you.
wonder,
Go ahead.
all right.
It's
Well,
all
I
you.
guess I can't read the prayer I was going to read, but we'll do a different prayer.
Whatever, it's up to you. Let's just.
God, grant me the serenity. Are we ready?
Yeah, it's all you, bud.
Okay. God grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. God bless us indeed today that we get together and learn and grow together and try to do the great things that you established for our lives. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for your word of prayer. What part of the world are you in?
Alaska.
Nice. Well, welcome. We may come visit you. Usually in the winter times, in the summer times, we like to go up there. Prince Edward Island, wonderful part of the world. We actually hang out in hammocks and just fish, and we don't catch anything we don't eat. Go ahead.
I love it. Yeah, it's a beautiful day today. 40-ish degrees right now. 7 below this morning, but now it's 40. So
is that Fahrenheit or Celsius? Is that Fahrenheit or Celsius?
That's Fahrenheit.
Oh wow, it's still cold up there. 7 below. That's
4 a.m. 4 a.m. It was 7 below where I went for a hike, and then 17 degrees at my house.
We'll give you.
Now it's somewhat.
We'll give you a couple more months to warm up and then come play with you. We usually do that once a year or so. So anyways, thank you for all those.
Yeah. Look us up.
Welcome. Thank you for all those that join us from all around the world, especially for our guests, John. I guess we can change up some of the spelling here, and then Wally and all those that are really joining us. Victoria, Danielle, Becca, always being there and just consistent. It is appreciated. And for those that aren't aware, this isn't something we just invite the masses to or remind people of, but the Q&A and the understanding as it evolves, to understand it, to see it, and then to actually start driving awareness. And I believe at the right time and the right ecosystem is massively important. So hopefully you get to see that through this process. And this is a recording that will be live for the world to see for generations to come. Again, this is a Digital World Private Membership Association. Some of the things we may talk about might be forward-looking. It'll be interesting to see how people look back on this. But a long time ago, we were very clear in an understanding that there are secret combinations. And they're as real as this hand. I mean, they're really very real. I've personally been to the World Economic Forum, to Davos. I've met with some of these individuals. They're just like normal folks. They just think about things in a different way to control others. And really, that's not, in my opinion, and everyone can have their own belief, but I believe we're here on earth to have choice and to be accountable for those choices in a positive or negative way. And the beautiful thing is sometimes we actually learn, especially me, we learn from choices, even if it's the wrong one, to be able to grow and to learn and to become better. And then to also figure out that this world is not just about us as individuals, but collectively as all of us as humanity, and working together as a family to be able to create that environment where accountability can be real and freedoms can be delivered to the individual. But as we see these secret combinations, specifically around big tech, starting to close in, and media and health and government, they all literally have these parts and secret combinations where they work together, sometimes by design, sometimes just by happenstance, but sometimes it's absolutely intentional. And then they go in and take over governments. And then when they take over governments, they take over monetary systems. They take over not necessarily the creation of law. I love the Constitution of the United States and how it structures the House and the legislative branches and different in checks and balances. But the reality is those can be controlled. The United States of America was the first country to actually have a constitution and then a Bill of Rights, and then other countries started adopting them. But when the voting systems go digital, all of that can be manipulated. And we've seen it all around the world. We've seen it from many parts of South America. We've seen it to, I believe, and folks may disagree, I believe we saw it when Jacinda was running for presidency in New Zealand or Aotearoa. I think it happened in America. I think it happened in Venezuela. I think it happened in Mexico. And these different systems literally can then control who's actually in power. And a lot of folks just don't want to believe it, which is fine. And there's some folks think that they can't really do a lot. But over time, this actually continues to encroach with those secret combinations that work together to basically control humanity. And they primarily do it with the creation of money, which then controls behaviors. What you're going to start seeing is an additional layer to that, where they control it with monetary policy connected in with digital policy. We're seeing these digital laws being created all around the world. I believe one of the biggest next ones to actually hit, I think we've already seen it hit in specifically, it's not Ethiopia, it is Nigeria. Nigeria was one of the first ones, then in South Asia, then over in Europe. And we're talking about you lose your cell phone in Nigeria or your number. You lose if you don't commit to digital identity, which is basically taking your biological system, your finger, your face, your eyes, and you put it into a system digitally. You link it with an identity, usually government issued, and then you actually link that with an app on a device. And it doesn't matter if it's Android or Apple, etc. But then you've basically enabled them controls. Who's your contacts? What's your location? What's your, and there's so many of the things that they can control. It's crazy. I won't even get into it. But the point that I'm trying to articulate is those centralized systems in Nigeria around the phone number, in South Asia around bank accounts, in Europe around the ability to work. And next, the big one is going to be Mexico. The ability to actually, it's going to be similar to what Nigeria was, where around they take your phone number. So you can't actually get online. You can't actually access the cellular infrastructure. And as these centralized controls continue to actually control us, what is the counterbalance? What is the actual ability to do something that it puts the individual in the center of it instead of centralized systems? And that is what the digital world is all about, is enabling decentralized systems with technology that can actually manage the different environment, whether we're talking about financial systems, media systems, communication systems, I believe all of these systems can emphatically be decentralized, where the individual owns their own identity, their own data, their own assets, their own ability to transfer it from one generation to another generation. And it's very, very important. And it really is just focusing on different layers of it. And this is where a lot of folks in this industry, especially that are technology and have a huge history in technology, where they struggle to understand. It starts with identity, then you layer finance, then you layer storage or data, then you layer communications, then assets. And sometimes the assets are tied to the finance. And then you can get endorsements. Maybe it's from a government, maybe it's from a bank, maybe it's from a title company, with third parties, and then verifications. And then you've got on top of that other services that can layer into it. Maybe it's receipts, maybe it's certificates, maybe it's registrations. But the point is these layers in the digital world using technology enable this new fine balance between centralized systems and decentralized systems. And the way that it works is you get 12 words, you link those 12 words with who you are. So if you're using an Apple phone, it usually links to your face. In my opinion, an Apple phone is the biggest listening device humanity has ever known, and they've done an amazing job marketing that they're all about privacy. If you don't believe me, go and look up profiling for your photos, or profiling, and this is going to be kind of perverted, but literally they had a script that would actually track intimate moments through Siri that would let the actual employees or contractors of Apple take those things off site. Like literally, they would actually find those sessions, pull them down. And back, well, we're talking about is basically microphone stuff. So it's not video stuff. But if you don't believe me, this is like 6-7 years ago. So the data is being centralized. The key is the architecture around it needs to be the individuals first. And then they link their own identity, who they are physically, maybe health-wise, maybe where they go online, maybe their finances, maybe what apps they use, maybe the passwords. If you don't recognize that passwords are absolutely violated, you're not being honest with reality. If you don't recognize that applications at the actual app layer can be accessed through usernames and passwords, or underneath that at the operating system layer, or the virtualization layer, or the actual hardware layers, if you're not aware that BIOSes and CMOSes have backdoors, which can then layer other things on top of it. I'm not just talking about phones. I'm talking about x86-based systems or ARM-based systems, anything that is below the operating system level. But I'm going to show you all the negative, but I'm also going to point out how there's an absolute solution to all of this. But when you get those keys, you get derived keys that basically start doing things based around, you want to start a business, there's a derived key to it. You want to create an account, there's a derived key to it. You want to be private, you click a button and you actually go private. And a lot of people are all about Zcash or Monero or other types of privacy preserving chains. But the reality is it goes a step deeper. You need to have both. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But when we're talking about privacy, derived keys, namely tied to carry or AC/DC environments that the individual owns, the individual can restore, the individual can rotate. These are very key environments. And when you build it, you can connect the physical and digital centers or digital environments together through a form of decentralization with the individual at the center of it. So with that being said, a report out on You Own You. The Life Vault, the Utah Life apps are going to be the primary parallel system that we're going to focus on today. The Life Summit, we're going to discuss, and then the Clear Payments, and then Clear Autos. So first things first, one of the big things that's actually happened this last week is the ability for one of the best environments in the world to actually start embracing what the digital world is all about. And I believe it's actually the third environment. And I'll go through, kind of giving you, an example. The first environment is the digital world. The second environment, well, let me go through this. If we mouse over this, you kind of have three phases. The first phase is actually in the Pacific: Vanuatu, Fiji, Samoa, Rarotonga, Aitutaki, Aotearoa, this environment with New Zealand. It's sad that Australia is not really more of a player because they should be. But the net is this was phase one, and this was about 2 years worth of work. We met with 28 countries. 10 of them actually signed on. I'll go through what those countries are. These are the actual countries here. You can see it. Literally almost half of the earth. In my opinion, it's basically half of the earth. Small population base, only 40 million people. We're talking about 40 billion acres of land and water, 25,000 islands, and these are the different environments that actually signed up. Some of the things that have matured since then is the country of Mexico, or the Mexican country, Mexican.country, and in some environments within the Canadian environment. Why? Because they're both connected into the Pacific. There's some stuff down in Argentina that's not done. There's some stuff in Venezuela that's actually maturing, but it's not necessarily connected to the Pacific. But this environment is very, very key. So with that being said, a core part of it is actually Aotearoa. The Kingdom of Hawaii is also very important with it as well. And tied to that ties to New Zealand. And when New Zealand gets involved, what do they actually have a connection to? This last week, one of the biggest compelling events is actually India. So what if a country, second largest population base in the whole world, 1.2 billion people and growing, actually launched a system that was tied to this type of environment? A lot of people go here for vision, for grounding. And in my opinion, we're all connected. We're all one family with one creator. That's one thing that I learned when I went to India, is even though there's a lot of different religions, Hinduism, Buddhism, Muslim, you name it. There's a lot of different topics, Sikhs, but they all really look at life as we have a creator and we are one. And when we start coming together around our identity as a core environment, instead of putting other people in between us and that creator, or our family or our relatives, it really makes an environment that gets a lot clearer and simpler. And a lot of people may be scratching their head and saying, I still don't see it. But we are one family. We are all connected, and we all individually have an identity. And no matter how much the maturity around the digital world continues, or the digital ecosystems continue to adopt, we have a choice. And in my opinion, India is literally at the center of a lot of things that are going to transpire in the future. Why? I predict, or maybe people agree or disagree, but China is an amazing country. It's the only country in the world that doesn't have an Independence Day. Why? Because it's been around for that long. When you dig into it, what countries came from this? You've got Hong Kong, you've got Taiwan, you've got other threats, which I won't get into, but I personally believe that the separation of Hong Kong and Taiwan fragmented the environment of China, where some of their ability to dominate, particularly in the technology industry, was massively affected. And I believe that in the short period, and I'm not talking about the conflict that's going on in the Middle East, I'm talking about China taking back, number one, Taiwan, number two, Hong Kong. And if that happens, South Korea is the only other core technological environment separate from the United States. Now, you could argue that a vast part of the majority of innovation happens within the United States, and then it's duplicated and assembled and copied within other environments. But it's very, very important for you to understand that when we talk about rare earth assets and supply chain and all of these other environments, most of them run off of semiconductor. Semiconductor actually controls a lot of these different environments. And India is that counterbalance. India stands up for themselves. They also align with everyone. I believe that they're very neutral. Have you ever heard about India attacking someone or being some type of a nuclear crazy power, even though they have it? Yes, there's some stuff with Pakistan. Yes, there's some stuff with China. But I look at India as a very special and sacred part of the world. And this last week, we had an amazing opportunity, primarily from some of the folks that were actually there, to say, you know what, we need to go to the top with this. And not only do we roll it out within Aotearoa or the Pacific, like here, or New Zealand, or even Utah, but we roll it out in India. And here's the kicker. I believe that Utah has the most advanced laws, especially with these 6 laws that are already on the books. So if you can't see these, we're getting some feedback from whoever joined, Danielle. And then, so you've got Pacific, the Privacy Act, the Digital Choice Act, Private Membership Association Act, which is huge, the Currency Innovation Act around silver and gold. You got House Bill 470 that ties into the Government Digital Identity Act. And then you've got the SB 260, which is around individual identity amendments, which a combination of both of those basically turned into SB 275, which was just passed this last year. And that ties to, I thought I had it up, dang it. It was a beautiful bill. I thought I had it up. So that ties to an environment that literally is conducive for, I believe, the individual to be private and free and endorsed by an actual governing body through processes that are cryptographically ensured, namely SETI, State Endorsed Digital Identity, that then provides a baseline and a platform for majority of humanity to basically stand up with. So with that being said, what we're talking about is Utah connecting up with many other parts of the world, namely, what if identity inside, and I'm just going to put some hypotheticals out there. What if Utah does a lot of things right legislation-wise, which, by the way, SB 275 was approved, I want to say, with 25 votes positive, 0 negative within the Senate, and then 70 within the House, 0 negative. That trickles into other countries and regions. What if it does go to New Zealand? What if it does get adopted with, whether it's with the indigenous environments or the crown environments or even the governmental environments? And then that connects into other environments like India or like other, and I won't even talk about some of the Pacific countries that I've already mentioned before. And then they stand up their own ecosystem, their own financial system that is built to the individual that is actually decentralized. Now, in India, they've done some interesting stuff where what they've basically done is they've taken out the crypto environments and they say they're legal. And in many ways, I absolutely agree with them. Normal crypto environments, especially that have been centralized, and I'm going to talk about some exchanges, I won't be specific, but you can think about any exchanges, or you can think about where the individual doesn't own their own keys, but some third party does. That is ripe for taking away the life savings or hard-earned assets of individuals that don't understand what they're getting into. And so if crypto environments are banned, but decentralized environments are actually approved, and the actual Indian Life ecosystem meets this new app called Indian Life, what happens? And then what happens if the Indian environment starts taking the blueprint, which the Clearphone actually nailed, and you start manufacturing in India, or India starts manufacturing an Indian Life phone or a phone from India for the people? Instead of using Google and Apple within their environment, they start actually building a phone, hardware, software, and back-end decentralized systems where their environment is actually controlled not only by them, but anyone in the world that actually wants to host a node to it. But if you back up and kind of look at what's happened in the last, I'd say just 24 months, the prior 20 years of work that India has put into investing in their citizens in education around software development, that is what India's number one export is actually human capital, people coming there, getting applications developed. Whereas over in China, what do? They do assembly of some type of a device really well. They pull in earth minerals and assets and build things with them. What do they do in South Korea? Same type of thing, but they do it with a little bit different focuses. We're talking about fridges. We're talking about wash machines. We're talking about computers. We're talking about automobiles. But in India, they invested in their people. And what just happened in the last 2 years, literally, I believe, took about 80% of that investment for the last 20 years away. And that is AI. Artificial intelligence has automated a lot of the value that the individuals, I mean, I have personally been to India a couple times, and we actually started with a team there of one person that grew to over 60 people before COVID hit. We personally literally worked with them as well as at that time we had 10 other offices. Right now there's 13 different regions that we basically operate in. But the point is from that 60 with AI, you can literally go down to less than a dozen and still be able to have the same type of productivity. If anything, it's probably better with from 60 people to a dozen people and literally be able to deliver better value with artificial intelligence. I think that's going to continue to degrade the number one investment that India put into their people, into their culture. And as that continues to do that, what's going to be the reality? Well, I think that this becomes a massive opportunity where India actually stands up their own system. Instead of relying on Apple and on Google and on third parties, they literally stand up their own system from a software standpoint, from a communication standpoint, and from an actual architecture standpoint, and they make these units. We bought a whole company. When I say we, I'm talking about one of the clear companies, which is service providers to the digital world, bought a whole company that has a patent on a technology that literally provides compute and storage and transactions and connectivity all in a stack. I should have actually brought this in. I could have showed it to you, but it's all in one device. Now imagine if they can actually assemble these and make them there, as well as the phones. There's no reason why they can't. What happens to actually preserving life, to proving that we are one family? Genealogically, we are all connected. I personally think that artificial intelligence, number one value add to humanity, is going to prove that we are all connected. We are all one family. We are all one people. And when we start realizing that, maybe we stop blowing each other up. Maybe we stop trying to control systems, and maybe it's just, transparency in certain parts of the world. Epstein, certain things are coming to light, and then they want to do other things. And, I don't want to push those types of messages, but you can use your own deductive or inductive reasoning to figure out where truth and error actually is. But in the end, it comes back to the choice and accountability from it, secret combinations that are trying to mask them to be able to control others, a few. And again, if you haven't been to Davos, just research it. See what they're doing there. See what the World Economic Forum is all about. See what these secret combinations, if they're real or not. And if you can figure out that that is real, well, maybe there needs to be a counterbalance to that. So in the last week, we've been able to accomplish getting the Indian environment live, which we actually diverted a lot of resources from the Life of Summit here in Utah, primarily from there are two spinning plates that we made a decision on about 48 hours ago, which we'll talk about. But the ability to actually start taking our genealogical data and connecting us, and then we as individuals start actually living a digital life that connects our genealogy, or in New Zealand or Aotearoa, they call it whakapapa, who we are, where we come from. And that's why some of these environments like Aotearoa are so important. They understand who they are. They understand their connection to not only the land, but to one another as the human family. And the ability to stand this up and do it in a way where the individual is at the center, and then to propagate that throughout the world, whether it's multiple parts of the Pacific, maybe it's over in the Arabian. This is some of the Arabian stuff. I don't think we've got, this is going to pull in. Anyways, this is really a massive shift. I didn't see this coming this quick, but if the Indian environment can actually see what New Zealand is doing, and New Zealand can see what Utah is doing, and we actually roll it out in a very responsible, transparent, accountable way, I think that there's going to be a future where humanity can stand up in a very material way. Now, that being said, I believe in the short term, you're going to see a lot of noise within the next 6 months in Mexico. The current Mexican environment basically is trying to digitally control and track identity, health, voting, finance, business, exchange, currency, and disputes, but all in a centralized way. Now, remember, when we talk about the digital world, we're talking about doing it in a decentralized way. And that's what these systems basically enable. So what if the Mexican people could actually stand up in their own realm in their own county or state and be able to say, we want to vote this way. We want to transact this way. We want to have value exchange this way. We want to receive payment and send payments in these ways. And what if you could actually say, well, you can transact in real time. You can transact with no fees. You can transact with rewards where you can actually then keep it inside of the environment. When you buy local and you pay with a local currency, I believe, and I would say a guy named Raghu was amazing in teaching this to me, that you literally can decentralize, same thing. You decentralize what is happening. It's just like the God-given gift or creator of being able to put a seed in the ground and then water it, put a little bit of sun on it and see it germinate and then see it come up and see it create. And through photosynthesis, it duplicates again, more seeds. It's just amazing to see this environment that we're given without people that actually want to control it, to manipulate the weather, to manipulate the body, to be able to attack them in different ways. And those are all different conversations or line upon precepts. But if you're understanding what we're talking about, these are very important things. The next thing that I want to kind of talk about and discuss, primarily around announcements, and this is big, so I'll give it a drum roll. What if we could actually track the progress of not only India or Mexico or Utah, but we tie it down to states, we tie it to provinces, we tie it to kingdoms, all the way down to cities. What if we were able to actually track cities? And what if it was AI that was able to see, based on different digital world services, and many of you may not know what these are. So these are the services within the digital world. You want to start a company, you want to manage your own reputation, you want to get married, you want to get a mortgage, you want to have a passport, you want to register domains, you want to do voting. All of these different types of things, and there's much more, are digital services that literally we can measure as they're adopted around the world. And this is 35 different regions. Currently, there's only 63 that are being looked at. You can kind of see how different ones are actually being kind of, and this is actually factual data. So let's say we want to look at British Columbia. They've been doing a lot for a long time, or Zug, or Luxembourg, or Amsterdam. But let's see if we want to actually measure them with a consistent level of measurement. Then we do it over time. So we actually watch how environments grow. We do it within specific unions. So for those of you that have not been paying attention, the smallest union is the Pacific Union. That's where it started. The second smallest is the Arabian Union, believe it or not. And this is from a population base. Then the European Union, which is already created. They've already got crazy centralized stuff. They've already got crazy centralized currencies. And it's really, there's some interesting stuff going on there. Then you've got Americas, Africa, Asia. You literally have all these different unions that AI can actually look at the different services. And what can it do? It can actually give you a real-time analysis of each one of these environments and how they're doing. So what if you pulled up one? Let's say this number one here. I don't really know them well, but this is over in Estonia. And if we zoom in here, we'll see, okay, so we've got Estonia. This is actually a perspective that this part of Estonia is actually doing. So they're doing a lot. They've got a lot of the different services. When I look at the services here, I'll click on this real fast. We click on the services. You can kind of see, what are they doing with identity? What are they doing with finance? Is it active? Is there a project? Is it coming out? So they don't have digital mortgage yet, but it's emerging, right? Or maybe emerging. Or governance, or property, or services. So these are all the different services that are basically being monitored by AI. You can see here, AI is actually a judge that can actually run a process to see who's winning. And one thing that's beautiful about this is everyone can get involved in it. They can see, we want a different city, we want a different county, we want a different country or kingdom if they're not being done. And you can look at intelligences around them. And you can feed this AI more information if someone knows about it, but it's amazing to see what's already there. And then people can actually say, well, I actually want to get involved in seeing if this is actually going to work. So this says, will this environment adopt all 30 digital world services by 2027? This is the bet. So each region has a certain bet that people can say, I believe that or I don't believe that. And they can actually bet. Now, remember, I got to put this out there. I personally think that most cryptos are fraudulent. I personally think that most betting, whether it's, and this is going to, I won't say a lot about horse betting because that's a whole nother conversation, but let's just say gambling within a casino. They're all rigged one way or another. It's not, yes, is there gambling to it? Well, let's say, how many fights have you seen over the last 12 months? There's like, well, did Tyson really do that? Or what's the other, Tate do this? Or, what I'm trying to articulate here is you can actually say, I really like Estonia and I actually think they're going to be able to make it. So if I want to, I can actually say, I'm going to bet a certain quantity around it. This environment, by the way, you log into this environment. Let's see if this is, I'm going to zoom back out so you can kind of see. So you log in with this environment from the actual Life app. You can convert from USD to DUSD, and then you can literally bet in real time. You can come off of a credit card, whatever. I personally don't bet. I don't believe that betting is good. I personally don't believe that speculation is good. I don't believe that all the crypto environments is actually good. I don't think in the end it adds any value to humanity. Even this type of a system doesn't. But there's a lot of people that are like, you know what? I want to bet based upon X, Y, and Z. And so they can, let's say that they actually want to place this bet here. We place it. You can see down here that it actually got placed. So let's go ahead and say, well, let's pick a different region. Let's say Luxembourg. So Luxembourg actually has a pretty solid score, 78, and it's active. So this bet basically, I can't even see it. Let's say Luxembourg will become the top digital world finance hub in Europe. So this is a different type of bet, but you can see it's a specific bet. It's X to Y by a certain date that you can actually get real intelligence around, and then basically AI generically pops it in or out. So let's say we say, I like Luxembourg, but I'm going to say no against it. Notice how it's a probability. So it's actually just based upon percentages that ties to a cent, that ties to $1, that then you can say, well, I'll actually put $100 on this one. Actually, I don't want to mess around with that, but yeah, so you can basically bet. I'm going to say no. So I placed a bet, and now it says that I betted twice for this and once against this. So as we go through these different regions, people can say, you know what, I love Florida, and I actually think they're going to do better than what this system is saying. And so I'm going to bet, X, Y, and Z for Florida. So the net is this is tracking a bunch of different countries or counties or cities all around the world, 63 today, on who is actually going to roll out these types of services, and whether they do it in a decentralized or centralized way is actually one of the key measurements within this environment. So that's what the red and the green actually articulates here. So when we talk about this, let's see here, you can see, this environment, what is this? This is Idaho. So Idaho is pretty well balanced. They're actually leaning towards being decentralized. Let's say we pull in somewhere a negative environment. Let's go to India. India is very, very centralized. Like the country is terribly centralized, right? So what if we were to say that we want to bet $5,000 that they're actually going to go and do something crazy like this, and they're actually going to lead the world and go from second to last place, like literally if we come back down here, they're second to last place. And let's say they jump into the top 10. Let's say that was the bet, right? So I hope you're understanding what the potential is here. But where there's transparency and there's measurements, there's usually improvements. And that's one of the goals in building this digital world city environment. One of the goals is by this time next week, we will actually launch this. And we were hopeful to actually debut this at the Life Summit. And, in my opinion, what's happening yesterday as well as tomorrow is going to make a decision where the Life Summit, I'll pull this up real quick. This Life Summit should actually be pushed out. Now, there's a couple different environments. We've got Mexico, we've got Utah. There's some interesting things happening within Utah. We've got Aotearoa. We've got the Canadian environment, which is not even started. We've got the Hawaiian environment, which is already, in my opinion, started and done. But, and I said this to somebody the other day, what if America went into Greenland tomorrow and we fast forward 20 years or 100 years? What would it look like? I think it would look a lot like the Hawaiian environment. Believe it or not, there are natives and indigenous people in Greenland, just like a lot of the other countries and environments around it. So with that being said, there's a lot of different summits, but the ability to actually have an inaugural one tomorrow is going to be a massively key day to understand physical infrastructure and possibly a headquarters, whether it's for the Digital World Embassy, or other environments. And there's a lot that's like a $21 million deal and a bet that we're basically making. And we don't want to make it when we don't have clarity, especially around what's going on within the Utah environment. So Utah, the state of Utah, state-endorsed digital identity, and then some other folks within the environment, primarily around some of the technology stacks around Carrie, et cetera. There's moving parts and just, in my opinion, just ridiculous misalignment. And I think we got to get our house in order in Utah in a very material way, in a very mature way, that we can responsibly be that light. And with these laws, and I think the legislative folks have absolutely done it. I think the state has absolutely done it. I think a lot of it is just disconnection or discommunication or dysfunction within other environments, which we can do better. We will do better. And then other environments like New Zealand / Aotearoa and others can actually stand up. And then large environments like, countries and then the world could actually use these types of systems. So with that being said, lots of moving parts. There's a bunch of new systems that have actually gone live. They're in business development and maturing, namely NASDAQ, that's built on a decentralized exchange system. So there's dialogue and interactions that are going on that level. Coinbase, which is tied to my Coinbase, which there's no connection today. There's no real environment, but the business development and dialogue is actually connecting there. So a lot of different things there, as well as different types of real world integration and adoption has been materially moved forward this last week. And with that being said, this is actually the state endorsed digital stuff, but I wanted to show you the law, not the people. So with that being said, any thoughts or conversations or topics that anyone wants to bring up? Now is the time. Live audience, anybody? Oh, here's another thing if people don't have something to say. What is it that you see here? Anybody? So we all know that Utah Life, and I'll actually jump into here. I'll go to Apple. Let's see. I'm going to go to Apple, and I'm going to show you the different apps for Utah. That's one for Utah, but did you know that there's others? There's one for the digital world, so Digital Life. There's one for Mexico, Mexican Life. There's one for the Kingdom of Hawaii, Hawaiian Life. And there's many more that will come like this that'll actually be full-blown apps within the actual app stores. By the way, Clear Life is also one that's available. These are primarily for Clear devices. Whole nother beautiful conversation there. But these actually get installed on the devices. So whether you're talking about Android, Apple, or Clear devices, it's on the actual phones themselves, okay? But what I'm showing you here is a new environment that's actually on the actual Life app itself that runs on the actual devices. Now it could run in a browser, it could run as a desktop, and you can literally tie different environments together And then you can do things like maybe starting a video call. So boom, like let's go ahead and jump into this. Go ahead and allow it. This is actually the first time I've done it on this particular one. Let's say you want to go in and say, modify this to do X, Y, and Z, but then we want to actually communicate. This is using a decentralized system to actually communicate. I'll jump in. Let's say, by the way, this meeting that we're having here, so in this environment, will eventually move to this environment. For those of you that were aware of digital, or what was it? We called it
Clear One.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so if you use Clear One, you saw what we were doing with, project management, contact management, meeting management, and it was all at your fingertips and it was yours, right? And we've integrated the similar type technologies in that same system of Clear One. For instance, for video conferencing, it used Jitsi, which is an open source protocol. But the key is it's integrated in such a way where it is completely private and the data is actually decentralized. So governments and countries and cities and jurisdictions or people can actually build their own systems based upon this. Like you can actually manage your own data within those environments. So does this make sense for people? So places, spaces, and it even goes much, much bigger than this as well. But I'll save that for the event. But imagine this connecting in with kind of like what we saw here around, maybe you've got a wallet, maybe you've got communication, maybe you've got AI. They're all linked into one system that is owned by the individual. And so that is really, and then you give it away to the world. You literally give it away to the world. It's not some, next type of Apple environment or a Google environment. So thoughts or conversations you want to have or observations, anybody?
Is that ready to be launched? Are you launching that next week?
That was actually the goal, is we wanted to actually show, but there's a whole nother system. Like I haven't shown you the whole thing because it's beautiful and it is amazing. Imagine if you could actually manage everything that we've talked about, plus your email, your calendar, your contacts, your messages, your
John, could you mute yourself, please?
Yeah, John. Or John, did you want to say? So it's Danielle. It is, and it's working. We're testing it. Like everybody can see this right now as an app on the desktop, right? So, but what if you could actually do everything that we do with communications or payments or marketing all within these environments, and the user owns all of it. And then the key management ties to it. Yes, that's all just a given. But what if like that, well, I won't even go through some of the examples here, but this is functional, but this is only about 20% of what we wanted to show the world at the Life Summit. And not only that, but you actually roll it out. Everyone feels it. Like when you get registered, you actually register, you get a simple badge. It looks something like this, where literally, you end up, people can scan that, they can connect with you, but you are absolutely private. So it uses derived key architecture, but the user doesn't have to deal with any of the complexity. The integration is absolutely smooth. It's seamless. We're not talking about how it does validations or endorsements or credentials. All of those are just technical jargon on how systems integrate. But I'm talking about how we actually operate within the world, how we buy things, how we move around, how we live, how we pay bills, all of those types of environments with a frictionless system that literally is the future. And there's so much more that we haven't even discussed that we hope to launch at this Life Summit. Like I say, tomorrow, within the next 24 hours, we will know if the second blocker is removed or if it's a go. And by that time, for those of you that were thinking, hey, we need to get out there, by that time, we will be able to give you good direction. And I appreciate all those that are already coming. If you've already got your tickets, come on out and we will literally We will engage, we will go through it, you'll see it firsthand. But for those of you that, really want something that is material, I would say hold off until we can actually get some of these other things in place. So questions, comments, thoughts?
Yeah, I have a question, Michael. You made a comment before. I'm trying to remember exactly what you said. But why do you think that, a lot of people are talking about decentralization now. It's kind of like the buzzword and all that. But why, and there's some very intelligent people in the world. They're very technologically inclined. And what is it? Why do you think that they don't understand what true decentralization is? How come people don't understand that? How come people don't get it? Because, I don't have a background in technology or anything, but I got it right away at the very beginning. I got right away that unless your identity is decentralized, then we're really not decentralized.
It comes down to technology / cryptography that gives you 12 words that represents a string or a key that then has derived keys on it, and key rotation and key restoration. That stuff is so complex for some people to get their head around that they just struggle to relate that to how that actually is decentralizing the control. A good example is someone works really hard and they get a paycheck, and then they go to a bank and they say, I need an account with your bank. I'm going to put my name on it, and you're going to verify who I am, at least what you think you know of me. And then you're going to give me an account number in your account, and I'm going to take my check and I'm going to put it in there. Oh, fast forward. Now employers basically direct deposit that in, which then is the next level of control. But the reality is you're still putting your funds in someone else's bank. And it's the same mentality of getting through that and saying, why can't I just own my own funds? Why? Because if you're not responsible with these keys and understanding how derived keys and key rotation and key restoration works, then you won't get it. And I believe that a majority of humanity doesn't even want to think through that. And I'll give you some examples. So I go to a government and I get an ID, or I go to a government and I'm holding up a driver's license, or I go to a bank or financial institution and I get an account. Okay. So they literally give me an account, and these are centralized environments that I'm trusting in for ID and for payments. Okay. And for those of you that can't see it, I've held up a credit card and a driver's license. And I'm basically saying that I, as the individual, am giving my permission to be governed by whatever thinks that is governed by this ID and by this payment type or this account. It's the opposite of that. It literally goes back to the individuals, their own identity first, where their identity is cryptographically tied to those keys. And once people start understanding, oh, you mean nobody can take it from me and no one can see if I use a verification? They can see if I do a transaction, which, by the way, some people may be yakking about this and it's just funny to see, but I'm going to pull open this ledger here. So in the digital world, all transactions are all transparent. You can see them all. Operations, transactions, ledgers, payments. And some people are like, well, I don't want that. That's what Bitcoin does, and it's not transparent. But what if I told you that you can actually click a button that says private, and just like you get a derived key within this environment here, you can absolutely get derived keys on all the different transactions that you're doing. So you get the best of all the worlds. You get a transparent environment where you can prove certain things, and you get a public or a private environment. So when I say transparent, that's a public. When I say private, that is like not transparent. So it's actually shielded. A good example would be Zcash, or it would be Monero. Those are completely private environments. They don't use the same technology as this for masking, But what if the individual could actually have a choice between either or? Some people within the Zcash and Monero world are going to finally figure out that their reputation actually matters, and that who they are and where they go and what they do, they actually want to prove, hey, I do pay my bills. I've paid all these bills for these years, or I do own this asset. I can cryptographically prove it, which, by the way, in the state of Utah, title is literally going to be a digital process that's cryptographically secured. Is it done yet? No, but I believe it's one of the most advanced systems in the world for titles. So what if a business has a reputation or an asset has a reputation, but you actually have to do things that are public to tie to those, or you have to have a setting that says, I will actually use my private attestations that I can prove that a private transaction for the world to see is actually tying to a reputation. All of this stuff is literally just math. It's cryptography. People also know it as crypto, but it's not like a cryptocurrency. That's not what these things are. And I think that's where, Danielle, people just get confused. They think that everything that is tied to decentralization or blockchain or cryptography is all cryptocurrency, and it's not. The digital world, if anything, it is a completely separate system. For instance, cryptos is just one category within the digital world. You want to add certain things, you can, but it goes so much more. By the way, one of the other things we've added this last week is the ability to pull in accounts. We can now pull in 12,000 different accounts that individuals have, mainly in North America, into this environment. And I won't tell you what.
Wait. Say that again. What?
Yes. So that's one of the big advancements. I haven't built all the slides and all the other stuff on it, but and it's not within the digital world. You'll see here. I've actually got to log in. So let's.
Okay, I'm in Canada, Michael. Can I do this? Can I add?
There's banks that'll actually work there in Canada. As a matter of fact, if you want, let me go to clear.holdings. I'm going to log in. For those of you that are not aware of what's going on with clear.holdings, massive opportunity here. But I'm going to go ahead and log out here. And I'm going to log in with this. Boy,
Okay, now you're gonna have to back up and tell us what the huge opportunity is.
I was going to announce it if we know if the event's on, I'll do it live or not. So let's see. I'm going to log into Scanner. This is a new app, by the way. Beautiful app. So I'm logging in. Okay. So it's a scan, 5-factor authentication, something I have, something I do in a certain space and time. Okay. So I've logged in here. I come over to assets, and let's say I want to link a bank account to it. We've verified. What do we got? Well, maybe I'm not in the right environment, but this is basically where it will add it. And that's one of the reasons why it wasn't one of those features that we were talking about, but I did see it work 3 days ago, where you basically pull in my opinion, there's the right partner for this. There's actually a couple different, but we'll actually have multiple different partners where you can select to pull in multiple different environments, whether it's US based, European based, or other. And you'll add your accounts here. The first step is to add them, so you get a complete visual on what assets you may have. Maybe it's a home, maybe it's a bicycle, maybe it's a purchase, maybe it's rewards, maybe it's bonds, insurance, maybe it's face value for insurance, maybe it's cryptos, right? That's just one category of many, but you
Okay,
can
but
actually.
when you say accounts, are you talking about bank accounts?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
So you'll literally.
Does that go for brokerage accounts too?
You're talking about like Fidelity and Charles Schwab.
Yeah.
Yep. So what?
Awesome.
So
Wow.
what if you could do something like this, where you could have these accounts, and then you could literally, let's say this was over here, you could literally say, I want to go from Fidelity into here. And Fidelity is not a good example, because usually to access funds, you have to do a certain thing. Let's just say it was Chase or Bank of America. So you could actually say, I want to actually go from here to here, right? And I
And you
want
could
to
do that?
That's where it's going. Absolutely. The
Holy
technology
moly.
is there to do it. So imagine you can go from a bank to an asset, And right now they're limited. Like you can see this particular asset can only trade to, let me, oh, that's only wallet that I've got here. So it can only trade to like 4 other assets that I'm viewing. Now there's hundreds of assets. I believe within the next quarter, there's going to be thousands of assets, including, ready for this? The renminbi. Okay.
Oh, wow.
The dollar that is actually a dollar within the Indian environment. Okay. By the way, here's an example. So you can kind of see how you've got an account that can transfer to other environments. That's a really good summary right there. So anyways, massive advancements, and right in the middle of launching this event at the same time, these games that are being played by third parties. But I'm sure in time, Utah will really come together. We will literally align, and we will be that example that the world needs to see. Because I believe that you've got to actually roll this stuff out in real time. You have real merchants, real stores, real transportation, real accommodations, real life that you're actually spending with identity and payments and reputation. And it's time to make that shift. And I believe that it will actually happen here in Utah. Next question, thought, comment, observation, anything?
Well, I have something I'd like to throw out there. I wrote a book just recently, and I talk about Clear Phone very briefly, but the goal is to reach people and get people interested. The book is actually about how our Constitution is supposed to be superintended. It will be multiple books that will come through this, and the next one will be another part of that whole superintendence. What's in our Constitution actually when it comes to superintendents? Politics isn't in the Constitution. That's a division technique, right? So I just go into some of the stuff, personal developments, young kids that are learning and growing and finding out about the Constitution. But I'm also very much want to communicate more and more accurately about this type of environment, because there's no doubt in my mind if we do this, that's awesome for humans. I don't understand a lot. I am a very simple human being. I don't need to understand everything. The demonic forces are clearly doing things. I love the way you word it. That, what do you call them?
Secret combinations.
Secret combinations. The whole thing just makes absolute sense to me. I don't have to understand all the things. I'm the kind of person that, the way I look at it is most people actually like to figure things out, and so they feel smart. I don't worry about feeling smart. I grew up where George Floyd died. It's a dumb place to grow up. Nobody ever told me I was smart, so I didn't worry about it too much. And I've owned 23 different types of businesses in my life, and I'm very excited about the Clear Phone business model that's been there kind of on and off. Also would like to, I need to get an accounting, and I've been trying to, this is kind of like a very different subject, but I need to get an accounting of all my stuff for the last 5 years. I'm trying to put together my all of my stuff for my life, estate, and all that kind of stuff. I don't know what, I don't know how to word all this stuff, but so I need to get accounting all that stuff. But I've been trying for a couple of years, and I haven't had any results with doing that. So if you can help me get that done, that'd be great.
Yeah, this would be a good environment to do it in. Go ahead.
What's that?
This would be a really good environment for you to do that in. Like literally, what we just talked about with these systems. So you plug in what's the accounts, what's the assets. So maybe it's this boat, maybe it's that home, maybe it's this bike, you name it. You got assets, you got currencies. Maybe they're in different forms or foreign exchange accounts. Maybe they're not in a bank account. Maybe there's equities. Maybe it's in public companies, private companies. Maybe you've got commodities, and if they're not in the system, then you basically just manually enter them, and you can create them on your own, which is really beautiful. And not only that, when you create them, you can show representation for the cumulative value of them, kind of like what's shown. I want to say it's here. Maybe I logged out. Here, I'll log back in. So if you want to see how they all
Yeah, I
kind of,
definitely want to take advantage of this for sure.
but
It's
here,
just gotta happen.
Bill, this is
Perfect timing.
you got to get this next point. So if you input them all in and then pass away, what if, and right now this is not matured, but what if, let's say that these assets, you could pass from one generation to the next generation
Yep.
cryptographically. So do you have kids, Bill?
Yep, I got 2 of them,
So let's say
and I want to be able to give them my properties that I own, you know?
you got it. And what's crazy is, you know how you've been trying to do this for years and there's really no answer to say, well, do you want to do it within this jurisdiction or that jurisdiction? Or do you want to create a trust here? Or do you want to create a trust there? Did you know if you create a trust in Idaho, it only lasts 25 years? Like, think about that. What's a generation? Like, generations are hundreds of years. So if we do it within technology, and then technology is going to continue to advance. And if we build this in such a way where we can pass the technology to the next generation and we let them continue to
Yeah.
develop it. But the key is, and this is why I love Utah, and people know that I've spent tons of times in different parts of the world, you know, around the Pacific, and searching only to find that, you know what, Utah is actually going to do this. So if we double down, focus in Utah, we get, for instance, one of the other laws that they passed within this last legislative session was the ability for unclaimed assets to be able to be cryptographic assets, and for the state to actually be able to hold those in a certain way that's conducive. So did you know that people just like you, Bill, work your guts out? Maybe you pay for a house, maybe you pay for a car, maybe you got a savings account, maybe it's all of that, and you've got a bride, you've got another half. And so it's like, well, what if Bill goes first? How do you make sure your other half is taken care of? And then how do you make sure that that goes to your posterity, your 2 kids or their grandkids or whatever you want to do? And I commit to you this, the system is not mature right now when we look at it from a generation to generation. But once the assets and the systems are in, and I'm going to show you an example. So like literally, it's just as simple as scanning. Like, Danielle, can people understand how to scan and then put their finger on something?
Yeah.
So that's literally 5-factor authentication that I cryptographically just added all of these different assets, which you'll see drop in here. So now you can see it just added all of these different assets. It's just that simple. You tell me, Bill, I don't know what your age is, but why can't I got a grandmother, how old is she? She's like 76 years old. She runs this same phone, and you know what? She does a great job at it. And passwords, yes.
Wow, that's cool.
There are issues with passwords, but what I just showed you is a simple scan, and her life can absolutely be her life. I don't know if that makes sense, but the goal is to make this so simple that you can organize all of these complex things, whether it's with states, whether it's with title companies, whether it's with insurance companies, whether it's with stock markets. You can integrate all of them into your life, and there is no border. There is no third-party jurisdiction. It's like you're in a jurisdiction of the digital world, which literally has its own governance structure, its own legislative environments. So I should be able to, let's go back over here to digital. I'm going to mouse over on governance. So I'm going to click on legislation. It goes through a bunch of laws, whether they're enacted and in place or they're in draft. But you can literally say, I am actually a member of the digital world, and the regions that I operate in, maybe it's Alaska. By the way, we should get, I don't know if you're connected with anybody in the government there in Alaska, but we should get them down here to Utah next week. Like the government of Utah.
The criminals?
I can't speak to that, but if states actually want to serve their citizens, or if countries want to serve their citizens, like they can come in and actually have a framework to do it. If they want to just oppress them and hurt them and continue to do what these secret combinations are so good at, then this isn't the right place for them. But people will end up self-selecting. Like you chose to go there to Alaska, right? And
yeah, many years ago.
You see it for what it is, but you also love it. It's home. It's where you live. It's where your pillow is. It's where, your family is. So do you make a choice and go to a different jurisdiction, or do you figure out how to live where you are in plain sight, total transparency and use a system that circumvents corruption. And I'm not saying that Alaska is corrupt,
Yeah.
but let's say that what you're alluding to is actual. Like I would say that the Kingdom of Hawaii was absolutely stolen by what's called the state of Hawaii today. I would say
Yep,
that the people
absolutely.
in the state of Hawaii, majority of them actually know that that is true. And they're not
Yeah.
serving the indigenous people. Like in Alaska, same type of thing. Like there's so many indigenous cultures up there in Alaska. And when we talk about India, we're talking about a culture, an indigenous culture that is still connected, one of the oldest cultures in the world. And when we talk about, generations, it's about making this connection from one generation to the next generation of who we are and how we pass things. And when I wrap up, I'll play something from a gentleman named Phil Lane Jr., who I actually sent a message out today. But before I do that, I'm going to go for any other conversations, topics, comments, anything.
Hey, Mike, I've got a question.
Uh-huh.
How do you convey a physical asset to the digital world? Would you just scan like the deed and then import it into the digital world?
Great question. Wow. So what you do is you come in and you create an organization, and like literally we could probably even do it with you real time. I log out, you log in, we create an organization, then you create an asset, whatever the asset type is, and then you assign that asset through a notary process. So there's things called digital notaries, and those digital notaries, so this is one of the services, those digital notaries actually seal that this has actually happened. It actually transpired. And by the way, remember this Clear One? Remember that interface? That interface is going to turn into this interface. Like that screen share right there is this screen share. And I believe that we'll actually have these meetings in these environments. But the point that I'm trying to answer to your question, John, because it's a really brilliant one, is the assets. And I'll pull up this environment as Clear Asset, as this is actually one of the environments that provides some of these notary services. It's only one service provider of many that does notary services for different assets. These asset classes that is tracked here is like a business, and how do you raise funds, or banking, or rare type of items. Maybe it's a ring, maybe it's a necklace, maybe it's something else. Maybe it's crazy things like wine or artwork or livestock or vehicles or homes or land or real estate, timber, oil, gas, private credit. Private credit's going to be a big thing in the future, or maybe it's something like a boat. So these assets basically go through that notarization process that literally have someone that actually says, we're verifying that you are who you say you are, and that this asset is who it says it is, and we have this reputation. And so their reputation as a notarer stamps to that and then starts building up basically stability within the environment. And what's crazy is we're actually starting this from scratch. Reputation starts from scratch, but it uses similar things to like what in America, they have this thing called FICO, which actually stands for Fair and Isaacs, which are the two last names of the dudes that came together to create the algorithm to build a reputation, which then ties to, in this case, John, a notary, and then ties to your asset. So let's say that you're in a state and you have a vehicle and you want to buy one or sell one or assign one. Or let's say that you are in a county and you have some land. Well, usually that is recorded at the county level. And that's one of the reasons why, by the way, this is focused on cities. So it's not counties, it's not provinces, it's not states, it's the cities. These are all about cities. Does that make sense? Because the cities is where people go and get a business license, where the business may be registered in the state. Or a county, which has many cities, maybe where they go and get a health certificate or a birth certificate. Sometimes it's at the state level, majority of the time. Or let's say that they want to vote. My point is there's multiple jurisdictions, and the city is where they all end. So let's say you go to, in the case of what you're talking about with land, it would be the county. You go to a county recorder, and you would basically file a document that has been notarized, And when you create these digital assets, so John, if you actually want to do it, we could literally do one with you really fast. If you want, I can just log out here. You log in, you create a digital business, you create a digital asset, then you position it to actually go through the notarization process. I don't know if you've got a Life-based device near you, but if you do, you just scan that. It logs in, you create a business, then you create the asset. You define the asset by the type of asset that it is, and then that pops into the category that we were just looking at here. So when you look at all these different categories, and these are just a couple of them, there's actually insurance and bonds that are missing from here. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other thoughts or questions? Topics? Hey, Mariano's here. Good to have you.
Hello, hello. How's it going?
Hola. ¿Cómo
Hola,
está?
¿cómo están? How are you?
Good. How are you? Welcome,
Oh,
welcome.
good, good. I'm just hearing everything. Everything is all right.
Yes, life is good, but there's a lot of moving parts. A lot of moving parts.
It is indeed. It is.
Yes. Just so you know, I reached out to Phil and Simon earlier today, so you should know what that means. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah.
But if you weren't here earlier, we hope to have clarity on the event and travels within the next 24 hours for those that are coming in. So.
Beautiful. That will be amazing.
Yeah. Anything you want to say or update folks on, or observations or anything?
Well, I'm very glad because right now we definitely need it for Mexico, because now they want to impose the digital ID and they want to banish all the physical money.
Yeah, there's two big things that I'm seeing going on in Mexico. One, money goes away as we know it.
Yep.
And two, ID goes away, or your phone number, if you don't link your biological ID to a digital app on your phone, you lose your phone number come January 1. Those two things at the same time will be the first time it's ever really happened. They've done similar things one at a time, like Nigeria or South Asia, or they started to. There was over 2 million people that signed up, almost 2 million people that signed a petition in Europe against the digital ID. But it'll be interesting to see if the Mexican people will actually stand up to it. What do you think is going to happen?
I think that we have a lot of opportunity with the younger generations too, because for them it will be much easier to adopt all these systems. But we need to focus with the persons also that need it the most, and the most vulnerable.
Yeah, totally. Mexican Life. Yeah, let's see what he's got coming on here. Mexican Life is something that is being heavily focused on right now. So whether it's at the desktop or at the communication layer, and there's specific products that are being built for them with some of the clear companies, but we hope to talk about those in the future once they're actually there. So it's good to hear from you, Mariano. It's always good to see you and hear from you. Thank you for joining. John, you sent in.
Thank you.
If there's anything else, Mariano, are you good? Are we good to move on? Oh, looks like you're muted. Okay.
Thank you.
John, you sent this in, T-Mobile Starlink.
Yeah, I just thought that maybe that's an alternative so people don't lose their cell service.
What's crazy is T-Mobile's actually in the middle of all of this. So it's not just satellite. It's basically the IMEI numbers that tie to the actual cellular carrier is what is being affected within the Mexican environment. So this too would not work. Satellite, data, cellular, all of it, voice, data, messaging. They'll probably keep the text messaging open, maybe not, but they can control all of those at the IMEI layer, which is the GSMA association that issues the IMEI numbers, whether they're soft SIMs or hard SIMs. So it doesn't matter, John. They're going to get the satellite stuff will be literally jacked. Now, if people,
it's too bad.
Yeah, but no, there's ways around this. There's ways. What we're working on is how can the people of Mexico comply with the new laws? And that's what we were doing earlier when we were talking to certain individuals that I just mentioned. What are the exact laws and how do we comply with them and enable the individual to actually still own their own identity. So that's what we're working hard to be able to accomplish. That makes sense. So,
Totally makes sense. Sounds like a good solution.
yeah. So other thoughts, comments, observations, anything?
I
Can I go
have
back to the book for a second?
I think Victoria?
I was just curious if the IMEI number is a form of a digital identification that would allow a user to be able to hold their personal information. Is that a way of forcing people to get a digital ID and then tying it to a device?
So IMEI numbers are usually connected to SIM numbers, which are connected to actual data on the SIMs, and you could historically move contacts around. That's a physical SIM. Now it's actually soft SIM, so the contacts are usually not tied to it because there's no real physical memory component to it. But IMEI numbers, and this is the direct answer to your question, is a form of control. And so the IMEI numbers, when it's linked to an individual's name or identity or social number, whether it's like an IRD number or a social security number, that connected with your biometrics, your face, your opticals, your fingers, that is where Mexico's actually going. And IMEI numbers are actually how they'll enforce it. They will actually enforce it through that mechanism. It's not freeing people, it's enslaving people.
So what if we used our digital world ID and tied that to our IMEI number instead of other personal information?
Well, you're thinking about it on the right realm. When I look at this number right here, this Michael and then these numbers as a last identifier actually represents four integers or four characters and four characters at the beginning and the end of a cryptographic key, which is a derived key from the original key. Okay. So let's say that an individual comes into a Life app and wants to click on, by the way, I'll show you for those that are not seeing. This is actually the new Life app. So you can kind of see that there's multiple different apps and settings. And if you want to actually come into communication, this is actually the version of what we're showing you here. Oops, I clicked on. These are contacts. These are places. And I can actually run into them just like I'm doing here. So this same one that I'm actually in, that same conversation is right there. So that identity around communication was created cryptographically, dynamically. The user didn't have to do any kind of complexity to get it up. Now, what if you did that in the cellular realm? And those are some of the things that we're working on, where what if I told you that this same company, which is actually I need to come over here. This same company, T-Mobile, is actually owned by Deutsche Telekom. And what if I told you that they have contractual obligations to provide sovereign identities to people that are actually indigenous and fall under a privacy realm, sovereignty realm, and human rights realm? So what if those types of stances were taken to issue a identity that is actually proven, but their name is not centralized? That is the goal. And I know that may be a complex way to say it, but did you understand it?
I do.
So that's the direction that we're heading down, because it just so happens Clear Cellular, through agreements with T-Mobile, through agreements with third parties, which I won't name names, that then ties to Deutsche Telekom, approved the ability for the individual to actually be private. For instance, when all of us humans went and got cell phones, the original ones came out from, remember the carrier? AT&T. And remember what they always asked for? Social security number. Did anybody remember that? And then it went to Verizon and T-Mobile, and everybody always asked for social security numbers. Why? Because they were effectively centrally tracking people, and they still do it. But what if I told you within this Clear Cellular environment, I'm actually going to pull open a different browser. This Clear Cellular environment, one of the actual services is around cellular service, and there's different coverages for different regions, but it actually ties to the ability for people to port or migrate away from existing carriers. Even if they wanted to use their same phone number, they could actually port it away from other carriers and be able to pull it in without linking their IMEI number, their phone number, with their name or their payments. And it is constitutionally protected. So if that can happen in America, then you've got to kind of look at what are the laws within Mexico. And we've got to do this following the law. We actually have to make sure we're conforming to what the new Mexican legislation is to be able to offer such services. It is not against the law to be private. As a matter of fact, if you're not private, you're enslaved. Many people don't understand that delineation, but that's very, very real. So I hope that makes sense to you.
It does.
Can I,
Makes a lot of sense.
Go ahead, Bill. Thanks, Victoria.
my question basically boils down to, a while back, there was a group that were building the Canada House stuff.
Yeah.
You know what's going on with that at all?
I haven't talked to those guys in a long time. I love and respect them and hope to build with them in the future, but I wonder what they're doing. Yeah. Maybe I'll reach out after the event. So
I'd love to hear. I love their ideas of, we own our own data and therefore, these companies want that data and we could sell it to them instead of giving it to Facebook
those
or any of
ideas,
these other anti-social medias,
those ideas are in parallel with what we've been working on for over a decade. So
Yeah.
it's not anything new.
Awesome.
The key is how can we work together to make it become a real reality and very viable. Those are the goals and objectives. So next comment, questions?
Well, with my
thought?
book, I hope to bring that out a little bit and make sure that people that read the book kind of start grasping this stuff. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you for doing that. I think awareness and education, as Danielle says, it's what's next and it's what we need to do a better job at. I completely agree with it. Victoria, go ahead.
I just had one other question, and that was, how does it interact, digital IDs, decentralization with VPNs?
Two different layers. You've got transport layer with VPNs, and you've got cryptography that is basically verified data. Now, if we took that question and we asked it at a whole nother level, and I'm actually going to pull this down and I'm going to try and focus in on this URL, okay? This URL in front of it has this thing called HTTPS. That's for Hypertext Protocol, also known as an SSL connection, secure socket layer. And within this particular environment, there's a certificate that is tied to it, and you can self-sign it, you can publicly sign it, and certain browsers basically tie to approving it. Now, they're using forms of cryptography when they do this, but the problem is SSL certificates actually have root keys that most jurisdictions actually say, the government say, if you're going to be an SSL provider in this jurisdiction, you're going to give us access to these keys. If people don't believe me, go look it up with China. Like it's absolutely being done. And that's why I'm saying passwords are not secure, hardware is not secure. Even Hypertext Protocol, the HTTP with the SSL cert, the S on top of it, is not even secure, in my opinion. Why? Multiple reasons. Who can sign it, how they sign it, who's trusted, who's not, what's the browser, what's not. For instance, I'm showing you a browser here. This browser is actually Clear Web. That's why we're able to do things like showing a video, which we'll show here. We'll show this video and people will actually be able to hear it. Whereas with other browsers, you can't actually do that. So like, for instance, can everybody hear this?
We've all heard the voices shouting, "It's not your turn."
You can hear that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
In normal browsers, in an environment like this where we're streaming at real time online, you can't hear that. That is a good example of an actual software stack like a browser using a certain connection like HTTP or HTTPS to basically do it. Now, here's the answer to your question. What if that same methodology around decentralized identifiers, or DIDs, or there's future versions of these DIDs, they call them, within what we call carry or AC/DC, these DIDs basically did certain things. And it actually connected a secure connection at the browser with a secure connection from an individual, and that actually connected them up. Now your VPN topic, virtual private network, is a moot point because you can create a certificate on one end and a certificate on an individual's end through connected to the browser, and you can actually create that trusted connection on its own. Does that make sense? So
Yes, it does.
It's
I hope
basically,
So I would cancel my subscription to my VPN then.
yeah. Or what if ClearWeb actually had VPN built into it, which is a whole nother conversation. So,
Would it be necessary though? I mean, at that point,
well, I think VPNs are all another form of centralized control and tunneling. The right way to do it is what's called don't talk to strangers, which is basically you block all traffic, ports, URLs, IP addresses, and you only allow the good in real time. And you couple that with this DID communication layer in the protocol layer or the browser, and how that connects up with the end user. And then what you do from a legal standpoint is the law or the counties or the states or the regions or whatever they are, they say in our region, like I hope that Utah would do something like this. In Utah, it is against the law for XYZ social platform to connect with a minor without having a form of a certificate on your end. So let's say that Facebook had to do an actual DID type connection, and I'll show you what it would look like. Something like this, it actually would have a couple other characters. Something like this that would then connect to a session, that would then connect to in the browser, that would then connect to an actual individual that would actually have to verify that they're not a minor to access certain content. If the law was legislated that way, we could absolutely cryptographically secure the connection between the user and the browser and do things around identity and payments. So is this a youth or is this a payment? Or can a parent that has guardianship over the youth say they can see this site or this content, or they can make this payment? All of it will integrate. And I think this will happen within the next 24 months.
Wow.
Cool stuff, eh? So
Cool stuff.
next comment, conversation topic, anything? Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted, I was blown away. I have a friend that lives in Nigeria. He's 23 years old. He's brilliant, beyond, I mean, his work ethic, everything. He's connected. But I asked him, I said, like, what's happening with the cell phones over there? And he said to me, with the IDs, you know, that otherwise your cell phone gets cut off. And he said, no, he said, it's a good thing because it's stopping a fraud and scams. And Michael, I couldn't believe what this young man was telling me.
Yeah.
I was freaking. Well, you know, if you have nothing to hide, but this is really good because it's going to stop criminals and criminal activity. And this is a young man that travels all around the world, that works in Saudi and Europe, all over Europe. And he comes from a very, very prominent family in Nigeria. And I couldn't believe my ears. I swear to God, I was flabbergasted.
Yeah, that's how they sell it. Just like the media can twist things. They're like, let's all go and put some untested thing in all of our bodies and not question it. And maybe we get a hamburger or, and I don't want to just say this is a conspiracy thing, but all I want to say is, where did privacy and freedom turn into some bad thing? And that's what media will try and say, well, hey, are you trying to hide? Are you trying to push drugs? Are you trying to push this? Are you trying to be a terrorist? I mean, that's basically how they're positioning it. And it comes back to those secret combinations and controlling things. The Patriot Act started a lot of this stuff. And the key is we need to work really hard to create systems that actually do things. So for instance, I believe that the digital world, this environment, can actually create a service that can actually do things around forensics and fraud that can detect things that are just amazing. Like they are, they can see trends that are like, you know what, there's actually fraud happening over here, but the privacy of the individual must always be protected, in my opinion. Otherwise, you don't have true systems that can actually have, like what Bill was talking about, where there's a separation between politics and judiciary, or a House and a Senate, or how systems should actually function independent of laws, or how laws are created. And in the end, I think that artificial intelligence is going to be a big key if it is leveraged correctly. And I think that is still kind of out to be determined. I think what you're seeing here within this environment around how, a simple question around which city will free its citizens' digital future first, and then going through and letting AI actually be, or I should say digital world AI, be the actual judge. And so everybody's coming into the same thing. You just run a query and it is what it is. And, either people won a ratio or they didn't. I mean, there's something very, very amazing here. And you can say, I don't know if Nigeria is even on here. Someone could put in a poll and say, hey, add a Nigeria to the list. I don't see them here. They definitely should be on here. Anyways, thank you for the comment. Is there anything else that you want me to discuss or address or update you on? Or
I had one last question or idea
yeah,
I wanted to run past you, and it was after I saw the AI summit with Melania, and they actually introduced a robot. Does Clear have any designs on creating a robot that would have like a node, like a walking, talking digital computer that I could have in my home, or that would go with me?
It's interesting that you bring this up. We have not publicly talked about any of that type of stuff. What I can tell you is within the Clear companies, and I'll just scroll down to the bottom, you can kind of see that there's an auto environment, there's a home environment, there's a payments environment. So it's really who we are physically from a health standpoint, how we communicate with Clear Cellular, how we actually, the back end is with Clear Center, so how the actual back end systems. And then this is actually wrapping in automobiles. So historically, automobiles were actually something that we would plug into. Maybe it was an 8-track or remember when we had the tape that would plug in that had a cable that would plug into the ear jacks on a smartphone? And that's how you would use your car as your speakers. And then it got more advanced. And then you had Bluetooth. And now it's the opposite. When you get in a current car that's made real time past 2025, you basically plug into that car, usually through a profile that's tied to Apple or Android, and you're logging into Apple or Android systems. So you're logging into Google, you're logging into Apple. But what people don't realize is it is actually tracking and surveilling you. And robots will do the same as these cars are doing. Think about it. A Tesla vehicle runs the same basic functional software as a Tesla robot. It's the same thing. They have cameras, they have intuition, they have abilities. And what if there's an environment, and it just so happens, like literally, we're actually working with multiple different auto manufacturers to see who is willing to allow a decentralized DID approach to be in an automobile. So what if you could plug into an automobile and all of these devices, the data on the camera is yours. The surveillance data is not being sold to some third-party company. You're owning the data. When there's an accident, you own the data. When you want to buy something or access something, it's coming from your own decentralized identity. Now, we actually went around and around with Tesla to try and figure that out. If we look at Clear Autos, I'm actually clicked the wrong one. If you look at Clear Autos, we were planning on working with Tesla through this, but it's privacy that the individual actually owns. So, reclaim your privacy, refine vehicle ownership. And I would argue that bots are no different than cars. They're going to be in your home. They're going to be in your yard. They're going to be working for your government. They're going to be the next sheriff, deputy. These things are literally the next device that will be surveilling. And I don't want to say spying because I don't want to be over paranoid, but the reality is if we're not paranoid in our generation and we continue to give these liberties up, the next generation will never even realize that they were taken. And so your question is brilliant. We don't have an answer for it now. To be honest with you, we're working on stupid things. We're working on microwaves and coffee pots and phones and even a small dumb phone that works off of DIDs, but it doesn't have the same apps that normal phones do, so they can't track and surveil you. We're working on simple things like that. Can you imagine how many devices are actually connected? An oven, a home, cameras, all of these are other IoT devices that are actually tracking and surveilling. What if you could actually tie these to DID architectures? And to be honest with you, these things are easier to do than the cars. And the cars are going to be easier to do than the robots, but eventually the robots will be there. We're not doing anything with robots right now, but I do see a future where we absolutely go down that road. I can tell you that last night we submitted an application with a vendor that builds automobiles to actually allow them to sell more cars because they're actually private and using this same architecture. It's not Tesla. Believe it or not, we actually walked away from doing it with Tesla. I've owned almost every Tesla except for the Roadster. I love Teslas. They're the most advanced in self-driving, blah, blah, blah. But they just, from a privacy standpoint, we're not able to get there and a data ownership standpoint yet. Maybe that changes in the future. We really love everything that it's about. But the problem is most of the systems they're building are all about centralization. And while people are worried about going to other planets and populating space, I think we just focus in on this beautiful earth that we've been given the opportunity to be stewards over. And we love one another and we recognize that we're all family and we recognize that we're in this together. And then we don't have to worry about going to a different planet or creating, and don't get me wrong. I think what they're doing, getting energy on the sun and building villages on this, or getting energy on the moon from the sun, it's just amazing. Getting to the moon, amazing. Getting to Mars, go for it. But I really believe we have a fiduciary responsibility as humans to serve this earth and the people on it. And through that, we will be able to be free as individuals, and we'll find peace. Where there's a ton of chaos and confusion and noise right now, there's peace to be realized if we can just take accountability for our own choices. And that's really what it comes down to. So anyhow, I know that's a long
Very
answer.
cool.
Yeah. Any other thoughts or comments or observations or?
So The Tesla phone is kind of off the hook, I guess.
I can't say that. That should come up. So we believe that there could still be a massive potential. Our goal was to connect the two up. When you actually look at it all the way at the end. So for those of you that haven't seen this, it's an amazing future, but it actually connects in Tesla automobiles with Tesla phones and subscriptions that basically overlap. And we still do see that as viable. Here's my personal observation. I believe that there was a deal done, and I can't say, look, I'll just say it this way. Is Apple going to get into the automobile industry? Is Tesla going to get into the mobile phone industry? By asking those two questions, I think you already understand the direction. And the reality is today, Teslas work with Apple, and Teslas track you just like Apple. What we're looking at within the Clear environment is the ability for that to not happen, for humanity to have a choice. Now, do we want to do that with existing vendors? Absolutely. Does let's pull open this. Does the Life apps work on Apple? Yes, this is actually the Apple Store, the App Store, right? Can you grab different apps within the Apple environment? Yes. Will the phones work within the Tesla environment? As a matter of fact, if you haven't realized, this phone here was actually built for the specific size of the Tesla vehicles, specifically the truck and others. It works perfectly with all of them. The Y, the S, the 3 works great. Actually, the 3 it probably doesn't work real well with. But anyways, I'll stop blabbing there. But the key is access devices need to give the individual their own autonomy and ownership first, and then do whatever feature or function they're going to do for humanity. But the individual needs to be at the center of it. And when you do that, the individual can then take their own identity, their own data, their own assets, all back. So with that being said, we will see you all next week. We've gone a little long tonight, but does somebody want to close us up with prayer? Thoughts, comments, closing remarks? Oh, there's a lot of...
I'd be happy to close us with prayer.
Please do.
Divine Lord, Father, we'd like to give thanks for this meeting and this congregation of people. Thank you for giving us the technology and the vision that allows us to gather from across the globe, transcending physical borders and uniting us in a common purpose. We are grateful for the insight shared today and rooted in individual sovereignty and integrity. As we go our separate ways, please guide us and carry us with your Spirit into our daily lives. Please grant us the discernment to navigate the complexities of the digital age with ethics and acting courageously and bravely. I pray that our efforts foster transparency and security, serving as a foundation for a world where every individual is empowered and protected. Please bless our work. Please bless our country. Please bless our nations, Lord. Please give us the clarity and resilience we need to move forward with your Spirit. In your name we pray. Amen.
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 We'll say goodbye tonight watching Mr. Phil Lane Jr. For those of you that haven't seen him, he's a hereditary chief based out of similar areas where you're at, Bill, but he's a wonderful man and one that I've grown to love and trust over the years.
My very, very beloved relatives of our human family. We live in a corrupt global system.
But are we a part of it?
Are we part of it? Are we part of it?
No.
No.
No. No.
We've been very patient as the few control resources we all need. The question is, can we change it?
We've all heard the voices shouting, it's not your turn.
Our heart aches to do more, to be more. But time is running out.
Time is running out.
Time is running out.
We start by completely trusting we can make a difference. Because with one heart and one mind and many bodies, in unity, we can do anything.
Together, we must take unprecedented, unified action.
And transform the world around us.
No matter how challenging that may be.
Individual sovereignty, freedom, love, and justice.
Unite us all.
Because there are indigenous-led technologies coming.
That gives us all the opportunity to stand.
To give, to love.
That's what responsible technology should do.
If you are one of those who believe it's your turn,
Stand together. Rise up.
everyone.
Everywhere.
You, as a rising generation.
Bye, everybody. Much love. We'll see you next week.
Good night, y'all. God bless.